Guilt, by definition, is I have done something wrong, right? I have made a mistake. You feel that you've made a mistake. But then oftentimes guilt immediately afterwards transforms into the phenomenon that we call shame, which shame is different from guilt, because guilt is I have done something wrong. Shame is I am something wrong. You get the difference? Guilt is the conscious knowledge of the fact that you have done something to offend. Shame is that conscious knowledge becoming an entire identifier that you imagine that you are defined entirely by that singular act. Are you getting what I'm saying? Because when you're feeling guilty, you're conscious of that one thing. But when you're feeling shameful, that one thing defines your whole identity. In Genesis chapter 4, guilt leads into shame, and what shame does is that shame, because you perceive yourself as fallen, you perceive yourself as broken, what you end up doing, the reason why you hide away is because you imagine that the people who have seen you think of you the same way as you think of yourself. And in this particular context, the person who sees us all the time is who? God. So that when I am feeling shame, and I am feeling undeserving, and I am feeling broken, and I am feeling lost, I imagine what shame does is that it superimposes these ideologies onto God. And we imagine that the same way I think of myself in this moment is the same way God thinks of me. So that when I feel broken, I don't imagine God leaning over to me like a father whose child has fallen. We imagine God sitting in heaven like an austere judge who is now ready to bring judgment upon you because you have offended his law. So do you notice the reason why we are afraid to go back to God immediately is because our perception of what he thinks toward us has changed in that moment. Are you noticing where I'm going? Are you seeing where I'm going? So then, why this is important is because you'll probably ask yourself why this was a week of prayer and we've spent so much time talking about the character of God and his relation to us. Because of this one reason, that as long as you imagine in God's mind are thoughts about you that are harsh and distant, it keeps you from going back to him. So that you're unable to go to God to ask for help because you imagine the way you think of yourself is the way he thinks of you. Do you see where I'm coming from? Now this is serious because it makes us wrestle with God wrongly. We wrestle with God as people who are trying to convince God that he should accept us. We wrestle with God from a point of abandonment where we are coming, listen to this, like the prodigal son, where he says, there is no way my father can take me again. But maybe if I convince him enough, he will allow me to be a servant. But then we forget that God's perspective is different from ours. Because listen to this, while we are crawling back to God in repentance, what was the father doing? He was running to the son in mercy. Because it's a principle that while repentance walks, mercy always runs. Because the mind of God is always filled with thoughts of peace concerning his children. Now, do you know why this is even more profound than you think it? People of God, I will say this, and I know it will shock some of you. Okay, sorry, that's a joke. And listen, you know how you're usually so shocked when you sin? Right? Part of the reason why okay, let me ask you a question. And if you don't listen to me correctly, you'll arrive to wrong conclusions. You